Okay, so once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. Um, it would be nice if we can close our eyes and just focus on our breath. And I'll give you instructions for the first minute, and then the next 2 minutes, I just want you to focus on your breath and see what's happening inside the body. Okay, so please close your eyes and just focus on your breath. So while you inhale, experience and feel the cool air coming into your body. Also, also try and feel which are the parts of the nose where that air is touching and going in. What do you feel inside the nostril when the air is going in? Experience the hot air, the hot carbon dioxide that comes out when you exhale. And likewise, try and figure out where all does the air touch your nostril. It touches the upper lip when it is exhaled. Can we all please mute ourselves? Thanks.
गौतम आप अजय सर को म्यूट कर दीजिए.
Ajay is already muted.
अच्छा.
If you lose your focus, take 2 or 3 deep breaths and come back to and just observe your breath, the incoming breath and the outgoing breath. Also see if your breathing is shallow, whether it is fast or it is deep and slow. Take one deep and a slow breath and see how you feel. So breathe in, breathe deep and breathe slow, and then breathe out, breathe slow and exhale all the air. And then you can open your eyes. Okay, so would anyone want to, share how did you feel when you breathed in deep and slow? And how did you feel when you exhaled all that air? What changes did you experience in your body? Anyone?
I feel goosebumps while breathing out.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, very good. Anybody else? What did you experience when you're breathing in deep and slow or breathing out? Okay, thank you, Archana, for that, for your experience. So yeah, meaning there are people who get goosebumps. I'll tell you how I feel I feel really cool in my brain when I breathe deep. That's because breathing deep and slow leads to brain stimulation. I feel very light when I exhale completely. Okay, so you know, um, as you can see on this slide, breathing in deep and slow has multiple physiological and mental benefits. On the physical side, breathing deep and slow leads to it boosts your immune system. Research done on mice suggests that um, breathing fast and shallow suppresses the anti-cancer activities of T cells. It also suppresses immune response to any infection or pathogen. Um, Breathing in deep and slow leads to better cardiac, digestive, nervous health. It improves appetite, and so it leads to greater nourishment for the body. On the mental side, breathing in slow and deep activates the parasympathetic nervous system. For those of you who don't know, what this is. So the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems are a part of the autonomic nervous system. Basically, activities that happen by itself. So things like digestion and um, things like maybe our fight or flight response. These are all determined by the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. So when we are relaxed, when we are breathing slow, when we are calm, it's the parasympathetic nervous system that gets activated. It is, when the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, this is the time when your digestive system works best. This is the time when your large intestine, which is primarily responsible for ensuring that you don't suffer with constipation. This is the time when that functions well. Your heart rate slows down. You have good secretion of saliva, which leads to better digestion. So clearly, breathing slow and deep is very good for your overall, mental and physical health. As you can see on the slide, it also leads to better improved neuroplasticity. It leads to better neurogenesis, which is birth of more neuron cells. It leads to better cognitive function. It leads to better attention, memory, and so on. Okay, so huge benefits of just breathing deep and slow, right? I don't think it takes much to do that. Okay, so this is how I would just like to tell you what actually happens when we breathe. So our lungs, they are basically capped in between the ribs and the intercostal muscles that exist between the ribs. Beneath the lungs, we have a dome-shaped muscle called the diaphragm. The diaphragm is the muscle that separates the chest cavity from the abdomen. Okay, so so when we breathe in, our intercostal muscles contract, as a result of which our rib cage expands outwards and upwards, thereby creating more space for the lungs to expand. At the bottom, you will see this dome-shaped muscle kind of gets flatter and flatter, or it moves towards the abdomen. And so, all of this creates space for your lungs to expand, right? So the greater this movement, the greater the contraction of the intercostal muscles, and the greater the flattening of the diaphragm, the more space your lungs will have to pull in more of oxygen and release more of carbon dioxide, right? So our effort should be to ensure that there is greater movement of the intercostal muscles and the diaphragm. Also, something that even I did not know until I read about breathing, our shoulder bone, our clavicles, are also engaged in this breathing activity. When we breathe in, our clavicles move up. Okay, but yeah, meaning the most important role or the most significant role is played by the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles. So the more these expand, the more air we can breathe in. During, an average adult male breathes in and breathes out roughly about half a liter of air. Now, if we breathe in really deep, you can, beyond this extra half a liter of air, you can breathe in roughly about extra, two extra liters of air. And if you breathe out deep, you can breathe in another 1.5 liters of air. So in a sitting capacity, an average male breathes in and breathes out roughly about 500 ml of air. Whereas if we were to breathe in and breathe out deep and slow, we would actually inhale and exhale roughly about 4 liters of air. Or in other words, the breathing that we are used to uses up only roughly about 1/8 the total lung capacity. Okay, and as a result of which, what happens is, when we breathe rapidly, when we breathe shallow, germs tend to accumulate in the lower parts of the lungs, right? And your lung capacity goes down, and we don't take in adequate amounts of oxygen, nor do we release adequate amounts of carbon. That leads to all sorts of problems. Okay, and of course, when we all know why deep breathing is important. The reason why slow breathing is important is because when we breathe slow, there is very good exchange of of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Okay, so what's the importance of proper breathing? Shallow breathing can lead to diseases by causing oxygen deficiency. We all know that there's something called cellular respiration. Each of our body cells needs oxygen to generate energy. We need oxygen to ensure that the liver is able to detoxify properly. We need oxygen for collagen synthesis. We need oxygen for proper functioning of the heart. I can go on and on, right? So in yogic philosophy, we also say that each one of us has a fixed number of breaths allocated during our life. So clearly, if we breathe slow, we can live a longer life. Some of you would have observed that, when we are stressed and when you are anxious, our breathing becomes very shallow and very rapid. Okay, so fast breathing rate is associated with anxiety, fear, and worry. And on the other hand, slow breathing is associated with calm, with calm, composure, happiness, a relaxed mind, and a relaxed body. Okay, besides all of this, deep breathing, because of the upward and the downward movement of the diaphragm, leads to very good massage of the abdominal organs. Just to let all of you know, ever since I've started breathing deep and slow, I've found a better performance in my bowel activity and better digestion as well. My appetite has gone up. I suffer with low weight. My weight has increased by 5 kgs in the last 4 months. So I have, experiencing significant benefits of slow and deep breathing. So as I told you, there are 3 types of breathing. The first one is the abdominal or the diaphragmatic breathing, which happens with the movement of the diaphragm. Okay. The diaphragmatic breathing is most significant because it leads to greatest amount of air coming in and going out with the least muscular effort. When we breathe, sure enough, our rib cage also expands and our clavicles also go up. But the amount of air that we pull in through the intercostal and the clavicular movement is insignificant as compared to the diaphragmatic breathing. And this is why it is very important that we not wear tight clothing and we not wear tight belts. A lot of us tend to wear tight jeans, which is not really good for appropriate and proper breathing. Okay, and secondly, we have the intercostal breathing or the middle breathing, which is achieved by the outward and the upward movement of the ribs. And lastly, we have the clavicular, the shoulder bone breathing. If you observe very carefully, which we will do in a while, when we breathe in, when we breathe in deep, you will see an upward movement of your shoulder bone. But as I said, there is, it involves much effort for very little output. Okay, so yogic breathing combines all three types of breathing into a harmonious movement, as it leads to maximum inhalation and exhalation, as I told you. And an average adult, inhales and exhales only roughly about half a liter of air. Whereas if you were to engage in yogic breathing, you could actually be inhaling and exhaling up to say about 4 liters of air. So effectively, we use only 1/8 of our lung capacity. Okay, so that's roughly about how we breathe, what actually happens inside the body when we breathe in and when we breathe out. I would now like you to see it for yourself, what actually happens when we breathe in and breathe out. So what I would want you to do is place one of your hands on your abdomen and close your eyes. And I would now want you to breathe in and breathe out and breathe deep and breathe slow and see for yourself what does it do to your abdomen. What happens to the abdomen? So we can begin now. Ideally, we should do this for 10 to 20 times, but let's just do it for 5 times. Once we are done, anybody can let me know what actually happened to the abdomen when we breathe in and when we breathe out. So we can begin now. 5 times, breathing in, breathing out, deep and slow. Okay, so would anybody want to share his or her experience? What did you experience during abdominal breathing? Anyone?
At the time of breathing in, I felt a bit of pressure on my stomach and particularly towards liver on the right side.
Okay. And how did you feel when you were breathing out?
Breathing out was a bit of relaxing and like pressure was reduced.
Okay. So, basically, like I said, what happens is your diaphragm, when we are breathing in, your diaphragm moves down. Your abdomen, your abdomen moves out, which gives space for the diaphragm to move down, which then leaves space for your lungs to expand in the chest capacity. Right?
Yes.
Likewise, when you breathe out, your abdomen moves in, your diaphragm comes back to its dome-shaped position, which then squeezes the lungs, and your body then releases that air out, out of through the nostrils. Okay. Let us now do some intercostal breathing. So put both your hands on your chest, and we will not use the abdomen. Okay, so slightly contract your abdominal muscles. Just contract your stomach a little bit and try and ensure that your stomach does not move while you're breathing. I just want your chest to expand and contract, your rib cage to expand and contract when you breathe in and breathe out. So once again, 5 times we will close our eyes, contract our abdomen muscles, and just allow our chest to expand and contract when we breathe in and breathe out. And be very careful and be very aware of what's happening to your chest. So we can begin now. Okay, would anybody want to share his or her experience? Anyone? What?
So I felt that, is it audible?
Yeah, Princey, please go ahead.
So I felt that the volume of air that I could take in using this kind of breathing is slightly lesser compared to the abdominal breathing.
Okay.
I meant to say that the abdominal breathing was kind of easier compared to this one.
Okay. And how did you feel what movement did you feel in your ribs during intercostal breathing?
So it was coming outward, kind of, and then it was going in while I was exhaling.
Okay. If you observe more carefully, yes, the rib cage moves out first and then it moves up. If you breathe really deep, you will feel an outward and an upward movement in your rib cage. Okay. Again, yes, as you so rightly said, the abdominal breathing leads to maximum results with the least effort. Okay. Intercostal breathing leads to lesser result with more effort. Okay. And yes, you will experience your rib cage moving out first and then moving up later on, leaving more space for the lungs to expand within the chest cavity. Okay. And lastly, I would want you to place your hands on your clavicles, on your shoulder bone, and do not allow your abdomen and your rib cage to move. This is very difficult. I don't know, to what extent will we be able to do this, but just try and do it. Contract your abdominal muscles. Place your hands on your clavicles, on your shoulder bone, and now inhale deep and slow and see if you can feel any movement in your shoulder bone. See if you can feel an upward movement when you inhale and a downward movement when you exhale. So we can close our eyes now and start breathing deep and slow. Okay, anyone? Would anyone want to share his or her experience? Could anyone feel the shoulder bone moving?
Gautam, I stopped after 5 or 6 breaks because it was difficult.
Okay, okay. Yeah, it indeed is very difficult. You know, we are, as I said, least amount of breathing happens because of the movement of the clavicles. And you know, it leads to it's a lot of effort with very little result. You will get the maximum output or the maximum results through abdominal breathing. Okay, so let us now just you know, it's we have roughly about half an hour left. Let's spend 5 minutes on now. So we know what yogic breathing is. Okay, what I would like you to do is now combine the three types of breathing, combine the abdominal, the intercostal, and the clavicular breathing into a wholesome movement, into a continuous movement. So breathe in deep and slow, allow your abdomen to expand, allow your rib cage to expand, and allow your clavicles to move up towards your chin. Try and stop there for maybe a second or two, and then slowly release your clavicles, release your rib cage, and then move your abdomen inside. Slowly and gradually we will exhale, right? So each breath, try and it should not suffocate you, but try and keep it as long as you can. So both breathing in and breathing out, try and keep it as long as you can. Let's do this for 5 minutes and see how we feel. Okay, so we can begin now. And ensure that your spine is upright. place two of your fingers in front of both your nostrils and see if you are breathing in and breathing out through both your nostrils. Or is it that you are breathing in and breathing out through only one of your nostrils? Okay, we can stop now. And I'll stop sharing my screen. And if you wish, you could put on your videos, or if you wish, you can just stay like this. One last piece of advice from my side. Try and do 10 minutes of yogic breathing in the morning, and just practice yogic breathing sometime during the day, maybe during your lunchtime. You will see massive changes in your life. You will see, in terms of your mental alertness, in terms of cognitive function, in terms of memory, in terms of your composure, even physical health. You will see a huge difference. Just, my presumption is that you will start seeing results in maybe a week's time. So see if you can do 10 minutes of yogic breathing in the morning, and maybe once or twice as time permits during the day. So the floor is now open. Yeah, Anshan.
The three cycles of breathing was clear to me, but what you followed in terms of checking whether the two nostrils are involved or one, I couldn't get the context and what is the meaning of that. So if you can explain.
Okay. So, Anshul, we have, it is in yoga, we say that we have more than 72,000 nadis in our body. Okay. Nadis are basically energy channels. Now, our left, so there are three main nadis in our body, which are the Ida, the Pingala, and the Sushumna. The left nostril represents the Ida nadi. The right nostril represents the Pingala nadi. And breathing through both the nostrils it represents the Sushumna nadi, which is the optimum way of, meaning this is what sadhus and rishis and sages aim to achieve, the Sushumna breathing. The left nostril breathing, or the Ida breathing, also represents your parasympathetic nervous system. Usually, when we are engaged in some mental activity, when we are relaxed, you will see that you're breathing through your left nostril. Okay. Usually, you will see when you're going off to sleep, if you just observe breathing through both the nostrils, you will see that your left nostril is far more active than your right nostril. During the day, when you're very active, when you're engaged in physical work, you will usually see, in most cases, the Pingala nadi, or the right nostril, that is active. When we are anxious, you will see that the right nostril gets active. When we are in a fight or flight situation, you will experience right nostril breathing. Okay, so our brain is an amazing machine. Whenever we are faced with some danger, our brain stops all internal, it'll freeze your digestion, it'll speed up your heart rate, your liver starts secreting more glycogen because your muscles will contract, because your muscles need energy in order to deal with that situation. The problem is, so this is a very good, it's a very good thing that whenever you're faced with danger, your brain engages in a manner such that you are able to face and overcome that danger. The problem is if your body is always in such a state, or in other words, you face chronic anxiety. That is the problem, which will then ruin your, it'll speed up your heart rate, so it hampers it hampers heart function. It will lead to more secretion of glycogen by the liver, which means more body in your sugar. It will lead to slower digestion. It will lead to slower bowel movement. So all sorts of problems. Right? This is the reason why I asked you towards the end to just experience yourself whether at this moment you are doing left nostril breathing or you are doing right nostril breathing. In fact, if you observe, in the good old days, our rishis would put the kak. The kak is the wooden support underneath. They would put that thing underneath their armpit. So if you want, if you're engaged in some physical activity and you want your Pingala Nadi to get active, you can put the kak under your left armpit. That will activate your sympathetic nervous system. And if you want to engage in some mental activity, you should put the kak under your right armpit. Is that fine, Anshul? Have I clarified?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other question? Would people want to share what they felt? Okay, so what I will also do is, if any one of you needs this presentation, okay, so there is a question here which says, what is the implications of both the nostrils breathing, right? So whenever you are engaged in some spiritual activity, whenever you are engaged in meditation, for example, you will see more or less equal breathing happening through both your nostrils. In fact, that's the optimal situation to be in. That's the state of perfect balance in your life when you're doing both, when you're doing Sushumna breathing. Sushumna breathing also activates the most important 7 chakras in your body. The Ida and the Pingala cross through your 7 chakras, but they go in a zigzag manner like this. The Sushumna Nadi actually pierces through all your 7 chakras, right? And therefore, that's a state of bliss, the perfect balance that you can achieve in life. So see, when you breathe in, would be good to kind of just observe whether you're left nostril breathing or your right nostril breathing, or you're breathing through both your nostrils. Okay, I don't think there are any more queries, so I will wrap this up. I will also share this presentation on the WhatsApp groups. If you wish, you could download it and keep it for yourself. Once again, just before we wrap up, I can tell you from my own experience, I've been practicing this for the last 2 months, and I've experienced a huge change in both my my mental state and my physical health. So I would strongly urge each one of you, 10 minutes, if you don't have 10 minutes, do 5 minutes of yogic breathing in the morning before you begin your day. And as time permits, maybe during lunchtime, even if during work, if you're faced with anxiety, just spend a minute or two doing yogic breathing. You will see a huge change in your mental makeup. You will find yourself calm and composed. and feel yourself to be capable to kind of overcome whatever's been disturbing you. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining in. You've taken time out on a Sunday. Thanks so much. And I will stop recording now. Those of you who wish to chit chat can stay on. The rest can leave. Thank you so much.